Bhutan is often described as the last Shangri-La because of its nature and spiritual allure. In an effort to conserve its culture and natural beauty, authorities have strictly controlled the number of travellers who can enter the Himalayan kingdom. CNA correspondent Saksith Saiyasombut explores whether Bhutan's low-number, high-value tourism policy is a winning formula.
3,000 meters above sea level, one of Bhutan's best-known landmarks is a breathtaking sight. This is Pado Taktsang, better known by its English name, Tiger's Nest. It's a long hike up, about 3 or 4 hours on average, but for someone untrained like me, probably a bit longer. The challenge here is a metaphor for Bhutan's exclusivity as a travel destination. Once known as the Hermit Kingdom, Bhutan opened to foreign tourists about 50 years ago. Visitor numbers grew steadily, peaking at 350,000 in 2019 before the pandemic. Like many other countries around the world relying on tourism, the pandemic was a massive shock for Bhutan. But now that they have put it behind in the past, they are looking to revive it, but without the masses. Yes, they want the revenue too, but they also don't want to sacrifice their biggest selling point, which is their nature. Tourism and tourist numbers are carefully managed in Bhutan. All visitors except Indian, Bangladeshi and Maldivian nationals need pre-arranged visas. Everyone must also use a licensed tour guide who will accompany them through their stay. Bhutan also charges a so-called sustainable development fee of $100 per person per day, used to finance conservation and development projects. This fee was twice as much before COVID-19, but altogether these conditions are still significant hurdles discouraging many from visiting Bhutan. Kinle Wangchuk and Yutha Karchung have been running tours here for a long time. They say they know exactly what their guests want and how to give them an unforgettable experience.
It's always nice to have a guide, because a guide is a requirement for Bhutan, because they're able to actually engage with the guest and also be able to lend a different perspective on Bhutan, give in-depth knowledge of the country, the culture, the religion, as opposed to somebody just reading it on on the internet or through a travel guide and just wandering around. I think it's more fulfilling and it's more intimate in that sense.
In the beginning, I would say, for many tour operators will say, okay, we are the ones who dictate, what the guest wants to eat and where the guest wants to stay. I mean, you do have some, a lot of authority over that, but that's not the way we in the service industry in the long run should run. So I feel now with the presence thing, where the guest will demand exactly what they want, and then even for us, it becomes a competition among ourselves to provide who can provide the best.
While India is the country with the most visitors to Bhutan due to the visa waiver, traditionally older Westerners have been attracted to come here. But tourism officials say this is changing.
The profile of the guest has definitely changed. We see the length of stay increasing. We see the guest spending power has definitely increased here. I also think there's been a really big push by the industry to uplift their standards and services. So, for instance, really focus on providing better quality food, better quality experiences.
Some issues, though, need to be ironed out for Bhutan to reach its tourism goals. The country's only international airport in Paro is in the middle of a valley over an hour outside the capital Thimphu, notorious for being one of the most challenging runways in the world. On the ground in Bhutan, long distances have to be traveled by car, and the tourism industry, like the private sector as a whole, is grappling with a shortage of skilled workers. Despite all this, tourism numbers are slowly recovering. Almost 100,000 visitors arrived in Bhutan last year, a third of what it used to be.
There's no two ways about it. Our tourism policy is high value, low volume. We cannot go in for larger numbers simply because we do not have the absorptive capacity for large numbers of tourists. They will wreck the environment, not because tourists want to wreck the environment, it's just the numbers. People talk of a quota to visit Bhutan. We actually don't have a quota, but I can tell you the quota is 300,000.
It's a balancing act between sustainability and tourism development. Bhutan is keen to cast off its long-standing Shangri-La moniker, referring to a mythical Himalayan paradise. Instead, tourism officials are pitching the country's authenticity.
It's one of those places that has maintained its integrity in its authenticity. Everything is authentic. Nothing is created for tourists. But in addition to the authenticity, you've got the spirituality, you've got the nature, you have the incredibly beautiful textiles that all have meanings behind them. The food. There's a lot of stories of Bhutan and a lot of ways to promote this destination.
As for our hike to Tiger's Nest, alas, we didn't make it to the top as the weather started to turn. There's at least one reason to return to this once hidden kingdom in the Himalayas. Saksith, Saiyasombut, CNA, Paro, Bhutan.